Welcome to Focus Stack, the podcast where we layer conversations on creativity and photography. I'm your host, photographer and educator Jim Reiman, and in each episode, I'll be sitting down with different photographers to learn about the stories, techniques, and inspiration behind their work. From creative breakthroughs to industry challenges, we go beyond the frame to uncover what shapes a photographer's vision. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the Focus Stack podcast. So, as we jump into this episode, let me just take care of some of those YouTube housekeeping things. I always find this part's the most awkward, so we'll run through that fairly quickly. So, if you're on YouTube and you're watching this and you want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps just make other people aware of the show and helps more people find us. So there's that. Also, if you're on Instagram, we have an Instagram account where I'll start posting different updates on episodes that are coming, and it'll just be a good way to know when things are happening. And then lastly, if you're a photographer and you would like to be a guest on the show, I have a link in the description both on YouTube and on Instagram, and there is a link there in the link tree to sign up to be a guest on a future episode. So if you think you'd want to come and hang out with me for an hour to talk about your work, that's how you do it. So with all that out of the way, let's get into episode number 5. Our guest today is Rick Souders. He's one of Denver's premier food photographers. Probably the premier food photographer in the Denver area. And he is also the co-president of ASMP Colorado. And I hope you're not hungry, because if you are, this episode's going to be really difficult for you because these photographs just make you hungry right away. So with that being said, let me introduce you all to Rick Souders. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Jim. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
It was a nice Sunday afternoon for you?
Yeah, it's a warm weather, which I like. I've been teased too much this winter with warmth, so it was nice to get out and enjoy the day.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, the way we usually start out is I ask the photographers who are here with us to talk about their path to becoming a photographer. So I was wondering if you could just share a little bit about yourself in that sense.
All right. Well, my mom was a portrait photographer when I was growing up, and my dad did leathercraft, taught it at a college, and did woodworking. So I kind of grew up in this creative family. Thought I was interested in chemistry and was going to come up here to Golden at the School of Mines. And I ended up in Golden, but not as a chemical engineer, as a photographer. Decided at the last minute to switch back to photography. I spent a lot of time when my mom was a portrait photographer in the studio with her and printing lots of black and white pictures, and found all that stuff really fascinating. And the chemical engineering, not to offend anybody, but seemed too right-brained for me and too nerdy, and I needed to do something a little bit more creative. So I went off to art school, got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in photography from the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. And then eventually made my way back to Denver, where I've been. And that's kind of how I started. When I was in Art Center, I had this fabulous teacher named Dan Wolf, who owned a whole block in Old Town Pasadena. He had a film production studio, commercial photography studio, and a restaurant called Wolf Burgers. Oh. And so when I was in his class, I realized that food photography was a thing, because I was doing more studio people and architecture actually at the time. And so when I met him, I started getting involved in food and assisted him on several shoots, and then that's how I ended up being kind of in the food and beverage industry. So, all right, kind of a fun path.
Yeah. Do you want me to go ahead and pull up your work here?
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Here we go. Okay, hold on. I came prepared. I've got my napkin here and my silverware, but it's probably I won't get to eat anything today with this.
Well,
I'm excited to look at your work because every time I'm all like, man, that looks so good.
so Jim, another thing in my path to food and beverage photography, when I decided to move back to Denver, I was a studio manager for a little while at a company called Melick Inc. And then um, a funny story, took a friend of mine on a tour of the Coors Brewery. He's a wildlife biologist, and they actually had a biology position open that he was interested in applying for. And I went out there with him, and they had a creative photography position open. And he didn't get his job, and I applied for the creative photography position, and I got my job. And so I worked at Coors for like 7 or 8 years. So that's kind of how I ended up on the beverage side of the aisle. So that's why I do both. You find a lot of food photographers that kind of just stay in food, but I do both and love both. So I always have a lot of people ask me about the pink flying donut
Oh
that's
yes. Should I click
right
on it?
there in the. Yeah, go ahead and click on it.
Oof.
It's people ask how that was done, and it's just it was actually a lot of work with 2 assistants. We had 3 dozen donuts, and we kept dipping them into the pink. And then the pink was actually, we tried to find a paint that was the same consistency as frosting, because all the pink frostings that we found were really wimpy. And just collectively, we all decided we wanted pink on black. So that's how that ended up. But I
So
had,
that's paint, not frosting.
that's actually paint. Yes.
Okay.
One of the crazy things that food photographers do is sometimes alter. But since this wasn't for a client and it was just for a portfolio piece for the studio, we decided we can do what the heck we want. So we switched out the frosting for paint.
Wow, and that's how it's getting all those strings. I always wondered, but I didn't even think that it might be like, is it like a house paint, like a
Yeah, it's just a regular indoor, the semi-gloss pink house paint. When I went to buy it, the people wanted to know what we were painting, and they got a good laugh because I told them donuts, and they had no idea, and they didn't ask any more questions either. So, but
so
I had.
Is the donut actually being like flicked, like thrown and spun, or is it on like a drill or something? Or
No, I actually had 2 assistants. This was all done by hand because I love torturing myself. But I had an assistant who would dip the donut into the pink and then flick his wrist to get it to spin. And then while he was doing that, I had another assistant with a plastic cutting sheet, and we had all of those little sprinkles laid out into an orbit, and she threw it while it was spinning. And
Oh,
of
wow.
course, so you have the timing of the camera catching it in the middle of the scene, the spinning, and the orbit. And we went through about 3 dozen donuts to get this one image. And there was really only one image that I ended up liking. And then we also had pink everywhere on the soft boxes. We had the set all surrounded in plastic, but somehow I had pink paint in the studio for over a year.
Oh, I
from
can
that shoot.
imagine. So about 3 dozen donuts. So there's 36 tosses.
Yep.
Oh,
A couple of the donuts we were able to, if they landed on the backside where you couldn't see
okay.
paint that had gotten on them, we could
Uh-huh.
reuse them. So we probably had about 50 chances at getting this right. So,
So I
but yeah,
when I was looking at this, I was like, okay, well, I wonder if the sprinkles were like a separate throw, but you're saying it was happening at the same time.
yeah,
And
all of it at the same time.
so there's no compositing in this. This is what it is.
Yeah, no, this is what it is. We took a few of the sprinkles out.
Okay.
Some of the sprinkles came like way too close to the camera, and so
Oh,
we
okay.
retouched those out. But
Okay.
other than that, they kind of did their thing, and that's what we ended up with.
Yeah, I see those TikTok things where people put like beads on a tray and then like flick it up and it makes a shape as it goes up in the air. So it's kind of like that
Yep.
sort of thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's amazing when you lay it out how you want it and throw it. There's a brief moment where it actually does that before it just randomly scatters and goes everywhere. And I
Oh,
had sprinkles. Uh, I mean, I still hate sprinkles to this day because they were everywhere. They were in cabinets, they were on the floor, they were, yeah, you can't imagine.
oh
We
man.
went through tons of sprinkles. We went through like 8 or 9 jars of sprinkles.
Yeah, I imagine they're all stuck in the paint that's all over the place as well.
Yeah, we just, oh my gosh. Yeah. We thought we were like making this bulletproof set, but that soon failed us. Yes.
But you forgot to cover the soft boxes with the plastic and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we thought we had it high enough, but as we were flinging, we decided we needed a lot of velocity in there to get the
Yeah.
rotation to go all the way around.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, to get that velocity, the trail that's off to the left and up is like going up 4 feet into the air.
Oh wow.
So, yeah.
So are we
But
talking like thousandth of a second? Like this is a really fast shutter speed, right?
yeah, this was probably done at a 10,000th
Oh,
of a
okay.
second.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
All right. Very cool. Well, I'm thanks for sharing that story because I did not think about it being paint this whole time, and I'm like, man, that
yeah.
looks good. Maybe it's not as good as I thought.
Well, I've had a lot of people ask, and it's one of those things in any kind of advertising that you don't tell people what you do unless they ask you.
Uh-huh.
And I know you really well, so I didn't feel like I could lie to you. So we did mix up um, pink frosting, and
Mhm.
it it we mixed it up really liquidy, and it
Mhm.
worked okay, but it just was the wrong color.
Yeah.
And so we went to the paint store and we said we want neon pink, and
Yeah.
they're like, okay, that's what we'll give you.
I mean, this is that classic pink like on the Simpsons donuts, it's
Exactly, and that's
yeah.
kind of what we were going for.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing the story behind this one.
Absolutely.
Is there anywhere else that you wanna
Yeah,
kinda
maybe
travel
click on
through?
the stills page and we'll
Okay.
just like maybe go down to the main dish there.
The main dish.
Yeah, those are all
Alright.
kind of separated.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, so you can kind of get an idea there of um, all the stuff that we do.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh,
the
man.
the
I,
ones that are floating and stacked there, those were all
this one here?
yeah,
The
those were all shot in camera. We kind of had to position everything. So a lot of the fruit floating and stuff, obviously that's an easy add in
Mhm.
Photoshop, but we had to work this into a packaging graphic. So
Mm.
um, you know, we shoot with templates, so we know exactly where the headline falls, and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times we have really really tight spaces that we have to create in. And so this particular shot was for the protein company. And so we did a whole bunch of these of different proteins: chicken, sausage, burgers. It was pretty fun to do. The client was really cool and kind of let us do our thing, which is kind of fun. The egg is a real egg. It looks kind of perfect. I wanted to leave it a little bit more generic looking, but the client really made the food stylist make like the perfect sunny side up egg. And so she probably spent as much time on that egg as I did like on the whole set.
Oh man. I mean, now that'd be
So
like the whole budget for the shoot, apparently, with the cost of eggs.
yeah, probably.
Yeah. So is this like is it like on skewers or suspended with any like
Yeah, there's a lot of these are skewered and suspended
okay.
through the background, and then obviously all the berries and everything were shot separately, but we actually poured the syrup over it and had to do all of those things to make it you know, fit into the package and look appetizing and
Yeah.
real. And this was all for a product that was vegan, non-meat,
Oh, okay.
uh, that's such a popular thing these days. And so they wanted to take it out of the realm of a plated shot, and everything had to be like floating and exploding. And so we did a whole packaging line of that kind of thing.
And that's what this is as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah,
On
that
the
one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
I was going to ask you about the pour on the syrup. Like, is this something that like you pour a little bit and then you take the composite the best pours, or is this like one
We do
shot?
a lot of that, and probably this was probably like 3 or 4 pours.
Okay.
We had the general pours, but then I have a great digital retoucher. His name's Jim as well,
Oh, okay.
and he's awesome. And so we collaborate a lot. He comes in for all the shoots, and we kind of talk about if we're going to composite something, like where the syrup's going to go and what angle things have to be at. And even with that syrup, I mean, we had to do the syrup several times, and we kept thinning it and thickening it just to get it the right consistency.
When you say thin
Um,
it, are you adding water to it, or are you warming it up or cooling it down? Like,
either warming it up to thin it, or if it needs to be thickened, we add a thickener to it.
okay.
Um, and and then if it's still not thick enough, then we cool it down by putting it in the freezer. And
Mm,
so it's just a matter of playing
mm,
with it. But there's a lot of food products like that that just work well at a particular temperature.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you
Yeah.
can probably migrate back up to
The,
maybe go down to like sweet treats, and you can see some of
mm.
the crazy desserts and things that we've done.
I like
I kind
this
of wanted to,
this pie here. That's fun.
yeah, I wanted to take you to this page because the like that pie and the stack of cranberry biscotti cookies above it,
Oh
those
yeah.
are all part of um, our food blog called
Oh.
deliciouslydifferent.net. And
Oh,
we have
okay.
over 100, we have probably now about 500 recipes on that site. And you can link to that site if you go up under our header, and it'll take you to blog. You don't have
Oh,
to do
okay.
that now because it's easier to see this way. The blog is formatted as a cookbook. So
Okay.
you can go in and pick sides, main dishes, holidays, drinks, breads,
Oh,
um,
nice. Okay.
and it pulls up the image and the recipe. And for those of your audience that are interested in that, you can actually print them out, and they print out as recipe cards
Oh,
with
that's
the
cool.
photos so you can
So,
see what you're doing.
and so
But
that's right up here in the blog,
yep,
up in the header there. Okay.
yeah. And then if you widen that back out, I can just show you a few other
Okay.
things that we, yeah, just go back. There you
Sweet
go.
treats. There we go. Okay.
Um, so like one of my favorites is that s'mores image with the flame behind it.
Uh-huh. I know
And
you love
that
s'mores.
yeah, I do. And this was actually, this was shot for a client for a coffee creamer
Oh,
that
okay.
was a s'mores flavor. And
Okay.
this is one of those examples. I just like to point it out because a lot of times you shoot things for clients
Mhm.
and they have to be like super clean and they have to fit into the
Mhm.
graphics because we do a lot of what I do is very commercial advertising
Mhm.
oriented for clients. So it's packaging, it's menu boards, it's magazine things, it's
Mhm.
web banners.
Mhm.
Um, and you never want to knock my clients because I love all of them, but a lot of times they'll give you an idea and you'll have to shoot it for a particular layout. And this is a great example. When the client left, I told my team, okay, we have to do this shot in my style, the way I want to see it. So
Mhm.
we pulled out these sprigs of um, branches off my blue spruce tree and brought the old barnwood background and then um, put some flames behind this, did like a quarter second lag in the exposure to get the flame to
Mm.
pop up.
Nice.
Um, and so we ended up with a really nice portfolio piece for ourselves. And we
Yeah.
do that a lot with um, photos that we do. I love experimenting and playing. So sometimes clients always bring a lot more food because they're
Mhm.
picky and we have to go through, cartons and cartons and just tons of product.
Mhm.
And there's always a lot left. And so we have extra stuff to experiment with. And then just kind of a nice side note for your viewers. I get asked this question all the time. Do you get to eat the food?
Don't eat the
Yeah,
donut.
if there's food left up, yeah, don't eat the donut for sure. If there's food left over that is still packaged, yeah, I give a lot of that to my crew, but we try not to be wasteful. So
Mhm.
we have a couple of food banks that get a lot of our extra food.
Oh, that's cool.
So we're not a wasteful studio in that sense.
Mhm. Oh,
Um,
that's really
so
nice.
that's yeah.
So
Maybe
in this case, this was for a creamer. So the food you're advertising wasn't this. It was just to illustrate the flavor
this was
profile.
to illustrate the flavor profile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um, and so whatever it is, whether we're shooting like chicken or steaks or
Mhm.
cookies or desserts, we always get mood boards and really
Mhm.
specific color palettes that have to
Mhm.
match the banners on the packaging and all that stuff. And
Mhm.
um, that's pretty easy for me. We have probably over 50 to 75,000 background elements,
Mhm.
backgrounds, napkins, plates, saucers, cups, you name it, it's probably
Mhm.
in the collection. And so it's easy to go back and take these elements and create something. And a lot of times our clients will see it and then they'll want to know if they can use it.
Mhm.
Um, and so I always say, yes, but I'll license it to you.
Mm.
But I don't usually. Occasionally, if we get done early and they know I'm playing,
Mm-hmm.
um, I feel kind of compelled to let them, if they want to use it for internal use within the company, I'll usually let them do it.
Mm-hmm.
There have been times when people have seen things that we've done and they've liked it better than what they've directed us to do, and then they've come
Mm.
back to see if they could purchase that for packaging
Oh, that's
rather
cool.
than the image that they've commissioned us to do. So,
uh,
um,
I kind of want
yeah.
to go back to the collection of things. Like, I've seen you like in your old studio how you kind of had like the I don't know, the library of flatware and substrates and stuff like that. But like, how do you go about like when you're building that sort of collection? How did it get started with it, and like how has it grown? Like, what are you looking for when you're out and you find just random plates and stuff? Like, what are you thinking?
Well, I have an interesting background. When I got my degree in photography, I also studied graphic design. So I have a
Mhm,
minor in graphic design, and I also studied psychology and color theory and color psychology.
okay,
And
yeah.
so I have a really good knowledge of how colors work together and how texture works. So when clients come to me, um, it's easy for me to visualize the props that I want to get.
Mhm,
And I'll either have a prop stylist at the beginning. I use, everybody has to start out somewhere. So in the beginning, I was the photographer and the prop stylist, and I
mhm,
would go source the surfaces and all that kind of thing.
mhm,
And then as we started to grow, I have prop stylists that I would give a list of things to. Um, and the fun thing about that is they can shoot me camera phone photos of props while they're out shopping, and I can say
mhm,
yes, no, or buy both, or get the whole set, or whatever.
mhm,
Um, and so, you know, one way that I've sold that to clients is just, when you're shooting, a lot of people, there are some big name photographers that have giant prop collections just like
mhm,
mine.
mhm,
Um, but one of the ways you can get there is, you have to put props in the budget. And so you have to charge the client for that. And a lot of people put money in there to take the props back.
mhm,
So, but you have to always realize that when you're doing that, you're paying your prop stylist time and mileage to go back
mhm,
to all those stores. And then a lot of those stores they have relationships with, and they'll charge anywhere from 10 to
mhm,
25% restocking fee.
mhm,
And so I started telling my clients, um, if these are things that you think you want to use again, they're going to go in my library and
mhm,
I'm going to own them, and you're
mhm,
not, even though you're paying for them. And when they got confused about that, I said, well, I'm happy to pay the prop stylist to take everything back, but
mhm.
it's going to equal probably the cost of the props to
Yeah.
take them all back. And so that's how I started building up a prop collection. Some clients were really into it, and would come back to us, and they would have their favorite cutting boards and plates and all
Mhm,
that. And other clients would say no. And then the third route is, an art director or a brand manager would say, "Oh, well, if you're not taking those back, I'm gonna I'm gonna take them and I'll put them in our collection."
mhm.
Um, and I don't know if our collection was company collection or personal collection, but I never asked. Um, so, but yeah, so it's just grown over the years, and we've had like two giant studio yard sales to kind of thin the
Mhm,
collection out, so we could
mhm,
get rid of old stuff that I'm tired of using and start
mhm,
repurchasing new stuff. But yeah, that's how that kind of came about.
mhm. I mean, we were out at
Um,
dinner recently, and you'd made a comment about sometimes you'll come across something at a restaurant and find a way to ask if it's for sale. You think you could use
yeah,
it in a shoot? I thought that was pretty
I
funny.
I do. I will, if I see like a unique piece of pottery or glass, or especially cutting boards, because if you go to a steakhouse
Mhm.
and there's this really gnarly beat up cutting board that you see walking around, like I'll stop the wait staff and say, "Hey, that cutting board that just went by, like, can you go get your manager and tell him I want to buy that?" And they always think it's a joke until they realize it's not. And then they'll go get the manager. And I always get no. 100% of the time, I've been told no. And then I usually get up from the table and I follow the manager back to their station and explain more about what I do and tell them, you just tell me the price you want for it and I will pay, your restaurant for that cutting board, and then 9 times out of 10, I can talk them into selling it to me.
Yeah, was it a charcuterie board that we saw at the or charcuterie board
Yeah,
at the
it was.
restaurant?
It was a
Yeah,
charcuterie board.
yeah.
Yep. So I've done
That's
that with
funny.
napkins and silverware and glass, plateware, glasses. Because restaurants can go to these big supply houses all over the
Mhm,
world and find really unique pieces that that you or I would never find because they have
yeah,
to order like 100 cases of them.
sure,
And I
yeah.
just need two for
Uh-huh,
photography. I
yeah.
usually want like the hero and then one that the food stylist can work with. So if it's plateware, I always try to nab two of them.
Okay, yeah. In the case of, like, surfaces, are those, like, boards that you're kinda picking up, like, the Home Depot or something, or tiles or things like
Boards,
that?
tiles, floor and decor is a great resource.
Mhm,
I grew up out in the high prairie, the high plains of Colorado, and so I know a lot of people that own farms, and so they
mhm,
just let me go out and tear up, you know, old boards like underneath that
mhm,
s'more shop. Those are
mhm.
boards off of an old barn.
Nice.
Um, and I just, so I do that, and I also some of them have props sets builders
Mhm,
will paint or burnish or burn, create
mhm.
whatever we need. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
We
that's
probably
cool.
have over 100 surfaces in our collection.
Cool. Yeah, so you have, like, a dinner table, a picnic table, just with
Yeah, we
board
have,
just the top, few boards that you need.
and in multiple colors.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Nice.
so yeah. Maybe go into the stills and go down to splashes and pours,
Okay.
and we'll talk a little bit about those. Those are kind of some of the signature things that we have been known for over the
Mhm,
years. Maybe scroll down a little bit, and I'll point out a couple. The On that middle one there with the martinis,
okay.
the triple martinis there,
This one here?
glasses, yeah. That image, the green image, and then the amaretto with the cherry dropping into it, all three of those were winners at the World Food Media Awards in Australia.
Oh,
Um,
congrats.
and yeah, we were the only photography studio that ever won Best Beverage Photography 3 times in a row.
Oh, nice.
And those were the three images, and the
This one
the
here and
tr- yeah the
yeah.
yeah through the martini with the olive. And that one was fun because that was all done in camera, and then the olive splashing, we did several versions of that, and then stripped together what we liked.
Mhm.
We wanted the olive to look real, and a lot of times there was so much black bubbly stuff around it
Uh,
that it didn't show. But we kind of liked how the glasses stacked up, and each
mm-hmm.
glass has that shimmering liquid level to it.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of those, um, a lot of that kind of stuff is just signature stuff I love to do. We shoot all of our drinks and beverages between a 10,000th and a 20,000th of a second
Mm.
to get these really crystal sharp
Yeah.
splashes.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at right up through the top of that green splash there, like just these little droplets all around the outside. And same with all the clear ones too, but it's yeah, you really captured them as they're flying through the air.
Yeah, those have been really fun. There's one I don't know if it's in this set or not. You'd think that as a photographer, I'd probably know what's
Well,
in
you shoot
my
a lot.
portfolio, but
you you have a lot of
there
stuff here.
the blue splash with the yeah the
This one?
that one. Yep, that is one of my favorites, and that is one of the oldest images in my collection.
Mm,
That was shot on 4x5 transparency, Fuji transparency film,
mm.
zero retouching.
Wow.
So that was all in camera back in the days before um, digital cameras, and we didn't scan it and put it into Photoshop. It's just as is, and that
So
was
wow.
a lot of work
Yeah.
because you have to, for people that might be interested in splashing photography of any kind, whether it's cosmetics, you know, beverages, beers,
Mhm.
wines, anything like that. You have to understand that after every splash, your set is a complete mess. So you have
Yeah.
to have dozens of glasses like lined up of the same kind. The very first time I tried one, I thought, oh, if I just have two or three glasses, this will be perfect. And then I realized, oh, I've got to wash them and then I have to dry them and not have any fingerprints or watermarks on them. And so then I started buying just like a whole case of glassware so that as we went through them, you could
Mhm.
just keep switching out because it's enough work to clean up the set, but when
Mhm.
you have to clean up the glassware too, it's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. And so I
So
imagine you're wearing gloves, transferring one glass into the
yeah,
next one
yeah.
there.
I mean,
Yeah.
it looks simple and easy enough. But I always tell people it's a combination of science and luck.
Mhm.
Um,
Now, when you do stuff like this, are you using any specialized trigger, like a motion or sound trigger, or is it or are you just going with your gut and pressing when you think?
I do both. I started out with a motion trigger.
Mhm.
And so if a cube or something fell down through the beam,
Mhm.
it would that motion would cause the strobe to go off, and then you could set the delay for whatever
Mhm.
fraction of a second you wanted.
Mhm.
And so that's where I learned about the volume and depth of displacement of liquid.
Mhm.
Um, so I know all about the size of things to drop and how high to drop them from in order to get the kind of volume of splash that I
Mhm.
want. And then, partway through, I just started shooting things and dropping things and not
Mhm.
using the trigger because I had done it so
Mhm.
many
It's
times
like
that
muscle memory.
it it's not, it's not as easy. You probably get about every third one the way you
Mhm.
visualize it, but
Mhm.
you don't have to have a trigger to get pretty incredible splashes.
Mhm.
But if you want them to be sharp, you have to do a really really fast shutter.
Yeah.
Um,
Um One thing I was going to ask you about, you kind of do a thing where you do like 100 drinks of summer or something. Is it 100 drinks?
Yeah,
Uh,
I was just gonna say there's
yeah.
probably some in the hot and cold drinks maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, there's probably some in there. Yeah, like the drink on the very far right there with the things sticking out of it, the
Uh-huh.
leaves.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's part of my 90 drinks of summer.
Or 90.
And
Yes.
so I just started this, you know, 10 years ago, a friend of mine, we were out having cocktails and I was shooting with my phone and he was like, "Are you going to post these?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's what I do, you know." That's I take photos and I try to post them where possible. And he was like, "Well, you should do that all summer long." And so the more we sat there and drank, the more we decided, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool to do the 90 drinks of summer?" So the
That's how
first couple
podcasts
of
happen too, Rick.
yeah, well, the first summer, well, actually, the first 2 years, I would just invite friends, like, once a week, we'd get, like, 4 or 5 people, we'd go somewhere, everybody had to order a different drink, and then they couldn't drink their drink until I took it somewhere in the restaurant where I could photograph it and then bring it back to the table so they didn't all look the same. Um
So you're wandering around with your friends' drinks in the restaurant and
Yeah, I
placing
was,
around?
you know, at first people, you know, wait staff would come over and ask you what you're doing, and then you'd explain it. And nowadays, restaurants are like so used to that. They're like, "Oh, another social
Mhm.
media influencer. You know, we're just going to leave them alone because if we talk to them, they'll just waste our time, right?" You know, so now he cares, but what happened was I started posting these drinks and then people are like, "Well, I wanna know the recipe." Then I'd have to
Mhm.
go online and find that restaurant, and I'd have to, like, see what was in the drink,
Mhm.
and then I would actually have to make the drink because they don't, you know, when you order a drink, it
Mhm.
says tequila or, you
Mhm.
know, whatever the vodka or bourbon, it doesn't tell you, like, 2 ounces or quarter ounce or whatever.
Mhm.
So I found myself with a couple of my friends saying, "Well, I really want to make that." So then I started making a few cocktails, and then COVID happened, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh crap, I can't take friends out to bars anymore. So I've got to like switch this up." So I started doing 90 drinks where I had to make the drinks myself and I had
Mhm.
to get all the ingredients for the drinks. So then that stuck, and every year people wanted the drink and the exact recipe. And so we did that for 10 years. So last summer was the end of the 90 drinks of summer. So we did 900 drinks over 10 years.
Wow. That's a lot of drinks. And so did you start this before you started the blog where people could get recipes? Was it kind of
I did. Well,
okay.
it was kind of about the same time. This
Okay.
probably preceded that by a year or two. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, um, you know, we're always looking for fun things to do. Like usually during December, we do the 12 desserts of Christmas to
Mhm.
kind of augment the 90 drinks of summer.
Yeah.
So we're, you know, we're always looking for fun, um, kind of ridiculous things to keep us busy.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Just kind of click through some of these. Oh, that looks fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
all of these were, you know, pretty drinks are really fun. You know, people are like, "Oh, that, you know, how do you get them to look so good?" Well, it's we use a lot of acrylic ice.
mhm.
Um, some clients don't let us; they want real ice cubes, but I love acrylic ice because you can get it in any size that you want somebody to make it in, and you can
Mhm.
um, and it's clear, so you can light through it, and it's like really beautiful.
Yeah, doesn't ice
Um,
need to be made a certain way if you want them to look clear and stuff? Like isn't there like
yeah, you
if you're
can.
using real ice?
Yeah, if you use ice, like you find the square cube in like a nice old fashioned and a bourbon,
Uh-huh.
that's made from an ice company. Like, for example, the Denver Ice Company does that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of the process to keep the oxygen out of the water.
Okay.
Because the bubbles are what cloud and freeze over.
Yeah.
And so they have a particular way of doing it. So every city has a place that will do clear ice, and you can buy it from them.
Hmm.
Um,
Um, what do you think some of the biggest misconceptions about food and beverage photography are? What do you think? Like, what is it that people think that's maybe not quite true, and what are things that are maybe more true than they realize?
well, I think one of the things, Jim, I get hit up the most about is people tell me you suck. You make all the food in the drive-through menu board look really good, and then I order it, and it's like smashed in a bag, and it's like it just makes me so mad that the food on the drive-through menu board looks so good. And I hear that a lot about burger joints. My burger is not 8 inches tall when it's built. It's like squished on a plate with the fries, and you make it look so good. And so I get that constantly. I think what people don't realize is like the process.
Mhm.
Even though we make food look a lot better than it comes to your table at a restaurant or a menu board, in some cases there are places that do their presentation matches the photography. But I think people don't understand that we try really hard to follow the builds on recipes. So if
Mhm.
a burger is done a certain way, or if we're shooting chicken nuggets for a client,
Mhm.
all that stuff is weighed and measured. And so we're not cheating on the volume and quantity of the food. We're cheating on the visual aspect of the food. So,
Mhm.
like, if a cheeseburger comes with two slices of bacon, we just simply cut those two slices of bacon in half, and you see all four of them sticking out.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's a little deceptive, but we've still used, the right quantity of
Mhm.
bacon. And we have clients that, don't let us deviate at all. We have some health food clients that are really,
Mhm.
you know, phenomenal to work with. And it's like, well, you weigh it out, and if you want more of something like granola or something, just take out some of the bigger chunks and put in smaller chunks,
Mm.
but it has to weigh like 10 grams. It can't be 10.01 grams.
Okay.
And so we have people that are all over the board. We have some clients that don't care, and honestly, I get annoyed with them because um, I've actually fired clients who have
Mm.
tried to go so far beyond making their product look good that it was just like 5 steps out of line with truth in advertising.
Okay.
And it's important for us and my team to, try to get the food right and still have it be what the what the client is trying to sell, and
Mhm.
not, don't put like a 2-pound burger in a shot where it's like a third pound patty. It's like
Mhm.
we try to use what we're supposed to use. I think most photographers nowadays, use what they're supposed to use and try to embellish.
Mhm.
But I think what people don't understand is the amount of time and effort that goes into
Mhm.
making something. Like, when I'm in the studio, I have usually I have a brand manager or an assistant brand manager. I usually have a creative director or an art director. I usually have somebody from their social media team.
Mhm.
And then on my team, I have an assistant, I have a food stylist, and my food stylist has an assistant.
Mhm.
So I've got like two people making the food so that it
Mhm.
looks the way I want the food to look. And a
Mhm.
lot of times we have corporate chefs there, and I have to let them make it once, and then I have to stand there and tell them, okay, make this again, but I don't want you to build it. I want my food stylist to build it.
Mm.
And sometimes you get resistance, but
Mhm.
um, at the end of the day, um, I'm the one responsible for what the food or the drink has to look like. So I, I put my foot down and say, no, this is what we're doing.
Mm.
And it works out pretty well. Most people, when they learn the process, they're kind of surprised at the intensity and a lot of times you'll get food on a set and then you'll have too many chefs in the kitchen, so to speak,
Mhm.
and they won't like the napkin or they won't like the way the fork's on the napkin. And 15 minutes later, I have to say to them, okay, that's all good that you're critiquing the set, but let's focus on your food because it's now dying. And now we need, like, I can fix the napkin and the fork, but now the food stylist has to go back to the kitchen and start over
Mm.
because we should have been focusing your attention on your food and not on the props on the set.
Yeah,
And so a lot of it is educating people too.
sure.
So that's kind of a fun thing. And then, there's weird things that people do. You know, people always say, I've heard, that people use like toothpaste and Nivea skin cream and all that kind of stuff for
Mhm.
milk.
Mm.
And probably that happened a lot back, um, maybe when I was getting into the industry. We've never really done that. A
Yeah,
lot of
I
those
always heard it was
fake,
Elmer's glue.
well, Elmer's glue, the big one back in the day was skin cream,
Oh.
because it had a really slick feel to it and it wasn't as dense as Elmer's glue.
Mm.
Um, but you also, if you use those fake things, you also can't do things like ripples. Because when
Mm.
was the last time you saw Elmer's glue like ripple?
Yeah,
So we,
just
we
splat.
use, yeah, yeah. So we try to use the real thing. It
Yeah,
really does usually look better.
yeah.
And a lot of times with meats, chicken, hamburgers, they're just cooked on the outside and completely raw and rare in the middle.
Mm.
And sometimes they're even cold on the set, and then they're just repainted with an organic vegetable oil to give
Mm.
them that glossy kind of straight out of the frying pan look.
Mm.
Um, but if you cook it all the way through, you lose the plumpness of a burger and it just doesn't look as appealing.
Mhm.
So lots of little tricks.
Yeah, is it I've always heard that, like, you can substitute the product as long as it or you can substitute an item as long as it's not the product you're advertising. Is that the
That's pretty much the gist of the
okay.
truth in advertising laws. If
Uh-huh.
you like, if you're shooting ice cream, it
Mhm.
has to be that brand of ice cream. But if you're shooting like a waffle or
Mhm.
something and you want a big dollop of ice cream on it,
Mhm.
you can use fake ice cream.
Mhm.
Um, I love fake ice cream because it can sit there all day long and it just gets better and better looking, as opposed to, when you shoot ice cream, all ice creams have different frost points,
Uh-huh.
just because of the ingredients and because of the water content. And so that just means that they melt at different temperatures. And to do ice cream correctly, you really need multiple freezers dialed at different temperatures, and then you go from colder to warmer as you move
Mm.
the balls of ice cream.
Oh,
And
interesting. Okay.
then when they're on set, usually you float dry ice over them so that they don't melt as fast.
Okay. Yeah. Is the fake ice cream like a Crisco or like some kind of like what is it? What is
There,
fake ice cream?
there's a lot of recipes for fake ice cream. I think an easy one, if somebody wants to try it at home, is just take powdered sugar and mix it with those canned cake frostings, the kind that
Oh.
you peel off the top and like
Uh-huh.
you the vanilla frosting, and you mix it to the consistency that you want it,
Hmm.
and then scoop it with a big old ice cream scoop or whatever. I mean, ice cream scoops come in like 20 different sizes, but
Mhm.
um, and it's hard. My food stylist is amazing. She can just make ice cream, scoop it. It's got the perfect, you
Hmm.
know, floral
Yeah.
thing with the skirt around it. I can get there, but it takes me three, 4, 5 times as long. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
there's
can
an
do a
art in
lot of food.
that.
Yeah. Well, I can do a lot of food styling, but that's not, I mean, I tell when clients ask me to do that, I'm like, you know, that's like asking your auto mechanic to paint your house. He could
Mhm.
probably do it, but
Mhm.
there's somebody, he's
Mhm.
better at something else. And so like, no, I'm not gonna shoot your food. I'll light it, I'll make it look beautiful, I'll direct it, I'll have my food stylist fix the food. There are editorial social media things, sure, that I sell food for
Mhm.
because those are short-lived and people want them to be more real and organic and not
Mhm.
so set up and fake. We like to
Mhm.
say artfully messy in the industry.
Oh, wait, what was that?
It's artfully messy.
Artfully messy. Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we call it.
oh, that's great.
Um, So I love the crumbs and the little bits and chunks that fall down on surfaces.
Mhm.
Um, some clients just want, clean, simple, but a lot of times people want, you know, other like you made it and cooked it at home and you cut
Mhm.
into it. And so we we shoot on fine china, we shoot on paper plates. It's whatever the client's demographic is.
Sure. Oh, that's great. Well, thanks for sharing all of this delicious food photography with us. As we come here to a close, let me fix this here. There we go. As we come to a close, I was wondering, is there any advice you might want to give to an up and coming photographer interested in food photography, like something that you wish you'd known back then that you know now?
I think my main advice would be to just study people's styles and try to find somebody that kind of is similar to what you might be interested in doing.
Hmm.
um, there's a lot of avenues out there to maybe assist for a food photographer and kind of learn a little bit about um, how that whole thing works,
Hmm.
because it is different. People say, "What? How is food and beverage photography different than just regular product photography?" And I would say the main difference is that any piece of food is organic, so you can shoot a photo of it, and then 10 seconds later, it's changed because it's
Hmm.
organic. It's
Hmm.
flattened, it's drifted, it's moved.
Hmm.
And if you're shooting a cologne bottle, the bottle's not distorting, the cologne's not evaporating out of the bottle.
Hmm.
And so there's just a lot more leeway there. And clients are pretty knowledgeable about those kinds of things. And so you just have to be really particular on set when you're shooting food, and pay attention to that and not be afraid to say to a client, hey, we're going to start over. I know
Hmm.
you love the set the way it is now, but your food has moved beyond
It's
like
passed
where
on.
it, yeah, this might work for like a quick social media, but this isn't going to be something that you would want to use for advertising. So but I say that to people with any interest in photography is like learn all the styles and watch podcasts about people you like and go to their Instagram pages and go to their websites and learn some of the lighting techniques they use, and then go play and try to I think one of the things I learned in school is we had an assignment where we had to um, for 3 assignments in a row, we had to take an ad that the instructor gave us, and we had to duplicate the ad.
Mm.
And we
That's a
had
good
to,
assignment, actually. That's,
yeah, we had to go get the product,
mhm.
and you know, being the poor college student that I was at a very expensive school, one day I got handed this cologne, this men's cologne ad, and you don't know how it's shot, how it's lit. You try to research. It's hard to find, so you just have to sit and think through it. But I remember going down to Hollywood to buy this cologne, and it was like $200, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's like my whole, like, living budget for the next couple of weeks." But there was, like, no you we couldn't make excuses. It's like, "This is your ad, bring it back as close to this as you can next week." And so I would shoot it and turn in my assignment and then keep my receipt. And the following day after the assignment, take the props back and hope that I would get my money back. But I
Mhm.
think the moral of that story is to find a style and like lighting and everything that you like and try to replicate it yourself. And some people have told me, well, isn't that ripping somebody off? And it's like, well, really, when you think about it, in life, every day that we move through life, we're ripping off something that we saw. All of our feelings and emotions come from experiences that we have
Mhm.
and that we create and that people give us.
Mhm.
And so if you take all of those things and you find photographers that you like the style, you like the lighting, you like the look and feel, then just go out there and take one of their images and try to replicate it. And in that process, you won't learn that you maybe didn't get close to what they were doing. You'll learn how you can take a form of lighting and turn it into your style, and a form of set styling and propping and turn it into your style.
Mhm.
Because you and I can look at photographs and probably figure out pretty precisely how somebody created the light and what the surface was, or if something was AI generated versus
Mhm.
photograph. But people that are starting out in the industry, don't necessarily have all of those opportunities to know a certain kind of light
Mhm.
bank or a certain kind of shape or diffuser. And in the process of trying all those things, you may suck at duplicating the image that you were trying to copy, but
Mhm.
you probably are going to stumble onto something that's uniquely you and that's really cool. And then you can move forward with that. So that's
Yeah.
what I encourage people to do.
No, I think that's great advice. Just, yeah, I mean, try to learn from the people that know what they're doing, and then you'll figure out yourself along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I in that assignment, I got close on one of the ads that I was given, and I was really far off on two of them, but
Mhm.
I learned more on the two that I was way off on, because
Mhm.
I actually learned more about diffusers and light banks and the proximity of light to subject and how the light softens and gets harsher as you move the light back and forth.
Hmm.
And that was a really cool experience. So
Yeah.
encourage everybody to try it.
Yeah. I do have one more thing. I realized that in the introduction, I did not mention that you are the co-president of ASMP Colorado and the sponsorship chair. And I was curious if you had any words to say about professional organizations, because I know you've been an advocate of ASMP for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be giving away how long I've been in the industry, but I looked it up this week. I've actually been a member of ASMP, which is the American Society of Media Photographers, for 34 years now. I joined
Mhm.
the organization back in my 20s and have been a member ever since. And for everybody out there that doubts why they should join a professional organization, I say to you, um, there are several reasons. One, it's always great to get together with your colleagues and be able to talk about what they're doing and what you're doing. And I find inspiration in that. A lot of people like to go it alone. And I think for a while, was the go it alone guy. And then I learned that the more people I was around, the more inspired I got by seeing their work and what they were doing. But the other big thing is all the seminars and workshops, and I've taken advantage of the legal counsel services that
Mhm.
ASMP has to offer. They help me navigate through a couple of really nasty, sticky client situations,
Mhm.
which I don't think I would have been able to figure out on my own. And then, as a result of being a member of ASMP, I actually started lecturing, and it went from the assistant level of ASMP and learning and doing and participating to traveling around the country lecturing to other photographers at things like Photo Expo, and went to Seattle, Portland, Atlanta, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, and have lectured to a lot of other chapters on different topics of photography, usually not food and beverage, but more about business
Mhm.
and how to navigate communications and um, how to light things. And I do show examples of my food and beverage photography, but I find in my lectures they're much more educational about the actual process of the business.
Mhm.
And I always want to tell people that, you know, if you take a score of 100% and you are 80% creative and 20% good at business, and the guy next to you is 80% good at business and 20% good at their creative photography, that person is always going to make it much further than you're
Mhm.
ever going to get. And people say, why is that? And, just think about it. We're all creative, and creativity is the way you see,
Mhm.
and that vision is unique to you, and nobody gets it until you sell it to them and you show it to them. And so if you're an isolationist artist, which there aren't too many these days with all the visuals that fly around the world every day, um, then you're not going to be good at business. But somebody that's really good at business and mediocre at photography is always going to be a lot more successful. That's just the way the industry works. That's the way business works. And so, focus on your creativity and be you, but learn to communicate and learn business skills and learn interpersonal skills. And you that goes back to ASMP. If you're
Mhm.
a member of an organization and you start meeting people and associating with people, you start to learn all those skills. And it
Mhm.
really does help you at the end of the day.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate you making some time to hang out with me today and show everyone some delicious food. If you,
Absolutely.
I don't know, do you want to share your Instagram? I just realized we don't have that on there. Do you have?
Yeah, it's just at Souders, Souders, 1301.
Okay, great. And they can find that on your website as well at
Yeah,
Souders
you
Studio.
can you can go to Facebook, you can go to Instagram, and you can go to the blog, and you can take a studio tour all on the
Oh yeah.
website.
Oh, great. And
So
definitely go to the blog and get those recipes, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rick. I will see you at the next big ASMP event.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. See you later. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. It helps us connect with more photography lovers just like you.